Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're gonna go back to the NFC North and run it back down through there again.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, let's get back into it. Nice. I'm gonna have to. Oh, okay. We're just good. Right? Things are changing. Okay. I guess just in case, yeah. Let's just start out with the Bears. Sure, and then we'll get to the Lions
The
at the tail
Bears,
end.
yeah. I don't
Um,
know if Justin's watching, but this
oh,
one's for
do you
you,
want me to
buddy.
wait? No. You
No.
can wait. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
here. Oh, I could text him, I guess.
I mean,
Um,
it's whatever. Sorry, chat. We have a bit of nepotism here. It's like we apologize. We yeah, but um, oh, but yeah, I guess let's see. Looking through these Bears picks, Kyler Gordon struck me as kind of interesting. Is between Zach Thomas and Braxton Jones, do you think one of them can fill their hole at tackle? Like, what are your thoughts on Braxton Jones and Zach Thomas?
I confess, I don't have a scouting report on Zachary Thomas, and there's a very specific reason why. Um, which is that
Don't
there
say
is
he's not
a
a good football player. No.
transfer
Uh,
from Wake Forest named Zach Tom, which is spelled
uh huh.
Thom.
Uh
I
huh.
wasn't 100% convinced that they were different people. And so I didn't
Yeah.
watch Zachary Thomas tape, to be honest with you.
Uh huh.
Which
Well.
sounds like an odd thing, but yeah.
Mhm.
So that happened. But we can talk about some. I text the right person. Hold on. One second. I did
Okay.
text the right person. So yeah, I mean, we can run it down from the top, basically.
Sure. Yeah.
So you said you had thoughts about Kyler Gordon. Tell me.
Oh. I mean, I guess mostly, I I didn't really have any like crazy burning thoughts. I guess if you're the Bears, I I again from an outsider perspective, I was having the impression that Kyler Gordon was more of like a round three guy. Am I misrepresenting here? Like that, this feels like a bit of a reach, right? Or
Actually, I think it's a very good value pick.
do you? Okay.
Not to like completely bully
No,
you
this
over
is
on this in
fine.
terms of
No, like
opinion. But,
you know better than I do on pretty much all of this. So
so what Dane Brugler is my hero when it comes to draft stuff. So I quote Dane a lot, obviously. But Dane was telling folks that Kyler Gordon, some teams actually had Kyler Gordon above Trent McDuffie, who obviously went to the Chiefs in
oh,
round one.
mm-hmm.
In that, Washington seems to, another one of those just powerhouse production places where they just pump out corners year after year after year, and it's
Yeah,
just ridiculous. It's
yeah.
not just corners either; it's safeties. Buda Baker, Byron Murphy.
Trey Merrig.
Who's the? Sorry,
No, that's
sorry.
TCU. I'm sorry, that's the wrong
Trayvon
purple
Merrick
team.
is at
Wrong
TCU.
purple team.
Another purple school. But who the short guy that plays for Tennessee? Um,
Ooh.
his name's gonna come to me at some point.
Okay.
But they pump out corners like it's their job, and the reason they do that is because they ask their corners to do a lot, and the
Mm-hmm.
fact of the matter is because these guys have to process so much, these guys are basically ready-made for NFL rosters. They are playing right away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's gonna bother me, so I'm gonna be looking it up. But
Oh, okay. Sorry. I. It's not like Malcolm Butler. It's not like.
it is
Oh wait. Oh, you're looking it up. Okay.
Elijah Bolden. That's who I was thinking of.
Oh, of course. Yes. Of
Yeah.
course. Of course. Of course. Of course. Well, 1 in 11 says Bears need a lot of everything. Bothered them that they took a CB.
Maybe. That defense is kind of, cover three defenses
Mhm.
are only as strong as their front seven, and you just traded with Khalil Mack. So I don't disagree necessarily.
Uh-huh.
Although I guess Fluss is a Tampa 2 kind of guy, I think. But no, I agree. They probably needed a little bit of offense. Velus Jones is probably not the answer, considering he's old enough that he was catching passes from Sam Darnold
Yeah,
in college.
I saw that comparison somewhere. It might have been you, but when I heard that, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
That's really
But
funny.
anyway, go back to Kyler Gordon. Kyler Gordon
Yeah.
doesn't have the processor that Trent McDuffie does, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He is not as smart, and he's not going to react quite as quickly. Um, but that's okay because Kyler Gordon is big and tall and has all the physical tools and fits perfectly across from Jalen Johnson. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually like the pick a lot. That's a physical corner who's going to
Mm-hmm.
come in and start day one. And so I know a lot of teams had Kyler Gordon above Trent McDuffie because Trent McDuffie has like 29-inch arms, like really small. He's a T-Rex out there.
Yeah.
But so was Elijah Molden, and he
Yeah.
did just fine. So,
Mm-hmm.
we learn our lessons slowly, I suppose. Jaquan Brisker, probably the best cover safety in this draft. He's a little old as well, but we heard Dalton talk about how these Penn State kids this year are really ready in terms of professionalism.
Mm-hmm.
We already went over Velus Jones a little bit. I will say
Yeah.
this: Velus Jones is a phenomenal returner, and so he is
Yeah.
going to contribute day one, even if it's not in offense. Um,
Mm-hmm. I mean, what
and
does the Bears wide receiver room look like right now? It's like,
not good.
yeah,
Um,
it's what Darnell Mooney, like Velus Jones. Uh,
Here, let me
anyone
pull it
else?
up for you. We got
I mean, Allen Robinson
Iron Pringle
is
and
gone.
my
Like,
old boy Equinemius St. Brown.
oh, Equinemius St.
Uh,
Brown is still around. Nice.
Still playing in the same division as his brother, but just on a
Yeah.
different team now. Daz Newsome, who I actually had a fairly high grade on last year.
Yeah.
Isaiah Coulter, who's a kind of jump ball guy from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Even more apparently is on the team. So yeah, they needed offensive weapons. Did they get them? Debatable, right?
Uh-oh.
For sure.
1-11. They need a decent QB as well.
QB. I'm gonna disagree on that, and if Dalton wasn't here, he would have some words for you.
Yeah. Is he a Justin Fields guy? He a big
He's
Justin
definitely a
Fields guy.
Justin Fields guy. The fact of the matter is, like when it comes down to it, like symbolically, the Bears essentially decided that they were gonna drop Justin Fields somewhere in Maine and say, "Hey, you have to hitchhike your way back to Chicago, through the woods full of bears." Ironic, I guess. In 24 hours, or else you're cut. Like that's essentially what they're doing. They're throwing him to the wolves because they don't bother with weapons or offensive line, which apparently is a trend in the NFC North. So
yeah,
there's
I
something
guess.
to be said about that.
I guess. Except for weirdly enough, like the Lions, the Lions seem to value their
they
weapons
just
a
didn't
bit.
have a quarterback, so they had no one to
Yeah.
do that to. Yeah. Jared Goff, right?
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
reason he fit in so well when he went undercover that one time, if you remember.
Oh right, yeah, I saw that video. Yeah, and people didn't immediately say, "Oh, that's an NFL quarterback." It's like, oh, okay, I guess that's that. Oh.
Yeah, but going down the list, Dominique Robinson is an interesting prospect.
Mm-hmm.
In that many people were taken aback when they saw the stat that he has never started a football game at edge in his entire career. That is because he was a receiver until last year. So,
Man.
there is success stories of turning edges into receivers. One might argue that a certain Hall of Fame snub this year is one of those success stories in DeMarcus Ware, who his sophomore, I don't know, sometime during his college career at Troy, decided that he was going to go from this middling receiver to defensive end. And we know that coaches love fast defensive ends, right?
Oh yeah.
Look at Amari Barno got picked. I've watched tape on him. Man has no tools in terms of pass rushing. He has zero tools, but he ran a 4.340, and he has the best get off I've ever seen.
So that just makes him like a 5th round pick. So it's fine. Like, yeah.
Yeah, he has no clue what it means to get to the quarterback. He just runs upfield and goes, "Oh, now what?" And that's his entire game plan. He has no idea what he's doing out there. And Dominique Robinson has a little bit more idea than that, so I will give him credit. But man, there is just he didn't test well either, so that's not a good thing. He's a receiver. He should run fast, right? And he ran in he didn't test as well as he should have. So I mean, part of that you might blame they put too much weight on him or something. Coaches like quick boys. Yes, coaches do like quick boys. That's why Darnell Mooney and Byron Pringle are your starting receivers right now, which,
have fun with that.
Byron Pringle's Kansas State career was phenomenal, but it's probably not who you want as your starting.
But yeah, I guess for in terms of trying to keep pace, like I appreciate the amount of in depth discussion that we've had on these top picks so far. But unless we want to go to like 2 a.m., do you have any other like general thoughts on some of the lower guys? Just like any quick throwaway thoughts before we move on?
Sure, I wasn't aware that the Bears needed a punter, so good
Yeah,
for
nice.
Trenton Gill, I
Trenton
suppose.
Gill.
The interesting thing, actually, it's kind of weird because most of these picks are the lower guys.
Hmm.
Um, that's like half their draft class.
Yeah, yeah.
But I will say this: Tristan Ebner getting picked is an interesting thing because he actually lost the job to Abram Smith coming out
Mm,
in college, and so
that's
he
really
was the change
funny.
of pace
Yeah.
back his senior year because he lost the job. Um, but apparently the Bills liked him better because Abram Smith didn't get drafted. So
Hmm.
there's something to be said there about that. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe less tread on the wheels, technically.
Just a
But
thing.
that's an interesting pick. But yeah,
Hmm.
overall they filled some holes, but they weren't working with much draft capital to begin with. So
Right.
that's what it is.
Yeah, they have so many fifth and lower picks. That's it feels like that's been the theme with I guess we'll discuss this maybe when we get to like the Rams or something, but like this feels like a theme with a lot of teams where you're seeing this weird divergence of some teams that are like give us all of the draft picks and then some teams that are just like any draft pick that's above like a fourth round pick is basically we could just give for a player anyway. And like it's a weird yeah, it's been interesting seeing how that's developed over the last like 5 years because I feel like this is something pretty recent that teams hadn't really tested out before. And is that fair? Like, can you think of an example of a team that's tried that more than like 5 years ago?
Tried what? Sorry.
Sorry, tried just like giving away their top three draft picks consistently for proven players just to like get the talent and actually won with it. Like, because
So I will say this. Up until recently, people valued draft picks way more than they did players.
mm-hmm.
Part of the reason was that draft picks often weren't tradable. It wasn't until a couple years ago that compensatory picks could be traded. Before that, you couldn't
Oh,
trade it, which is why we're coming up with so many more trades in the NFL draft now.
gotcha. Mm.
Um, just because there are more picks to trade.
Right, right.
That being said, um, the thing is, most teams are not willing to throw away their future to, win now. And frankly, winning now mentality has never worked before.
Mm-hmm.
To put my own personal spin on this, I think that building a team that will compete in the playoffs every year is really what matters, right? At the end of the
Right.
day, you want to get to the playoffs because once you get to the playoffs,
Anything can happen.
there's just
Yeah.
too much luck involved that you can't consistently say, oh, this is a team that is going to win the Super Bowl. Because mind you, the Bengals beat the Chiefs twice last year, right? And no one expected the Bengals to be there. Frankly, they were a year early, and that's why they lost. But like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, the Rams too. They went all in. They got Von Miller and Matt Stafford, who, by the way, they're going to get a comp pick for him, but they also lost Von Miller again. They are back to kind of where they started, and people forget they were a dropped pick away from not making the Super Bowl, and San Francisco's Cinderella story would have continued. They were a dropped pick away, and so
Could you have imagined a 49ers Bengals Super Bowl?
oh, yeah, it was already a snooze fest, frankly.
Yeah.
But, it was my Super Bowl is the draft, so
Yeah.
there's that. But yeah, the Rams were not going to make it,
Mm.
and somehow they did, and they broke through. But this has never worked before. Look at the
Mhm.
Eagles a few years ago, where they picked up like Vince Young as a backup quarterback, and that was one of their big spending moves of that offseason.
Yeah.
They won the offseason by spending I don't know like $50 million, and they didn't do anything with it.
Mhm.
Signing veteran players is not a cap savvy way of building a quality team because that assumes that you are on a rookie contract of a quarterback. Once you are
Basically,
paying
yeah.
a quarterback, everything gets much tighter. And you are
Yeah.
trying to sign free agents on top of paying a quarterback. It just doesn't work. And
And it's
so
wild. It's wild that it's working now because like quarterbacks are getting paid more than ever relative to their respective teams. Like it's crazy
actually,
that
the percentage of the cap that they take up isn't rising as much as you'd think it is. I mean, it is still
sure,
rising,
sure,
but it's not
yeah.
quite as high as people expect it to be.
Hmm.
With Pat Mahomes making $45 million, and etc. So
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. Do you know anything about Premier League being with Real Madrid being a good case of throwing away your future to win now? I
yeah, Real
don't.
Madrid. I mean, they lucked into Karim Benzema because they got in on him early, right? But they've always been the type that just pays a whole bunch. They brought in Sergio Ramos after he was expensive, and they've always done that, you know. And Barcelona is the same way too, and
Mhm.
they've paid dearly for it this past year. So we can all see that. What
Mhm.
team in their right mind gets rid of Messi? It's like the Packers trying to trade away Aaron Rodgers, right? Like it doesn't,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
probably similar. I don't. That's also not Premier League, Mark. By the way, it's
Sorry, I don't. I apologize. I tried to act like I knew what I was doing, and I failed miserably. So,
yeah,
good
La
stuff.
Liga, but yeah,
Yeah.
that I don't know if they won or not. I don't honestly follow La Liga that much because there's only two teams in La Liga. But
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
my. Oh, yeah. As if I was trying to hide that I wasn't an outside fan before. Now I'm really now I'm really exposing myself, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
you've been exposed for sure.
But yeah,
Um,
speaking of Packers, do you want to move on to talk about some Packers picks?
Sure. I thought this was an interesting draft class because they were openly trolling Aaron Rodgers for a good like day,
Uh,
for an entire day, essentially.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah,
Go
Christian
ahead.
Watson being available at 34 overall. That yeah, I hear you. Where like I mean, they're the Packers, right? Like they're gonna pick like a linebacker, a cornerback, or whatever as their late first round pick, just like they always do, and then realize, oh no, all the good receivers are off the board, and then make up for it by trying to make up for it in rounds 2 and 3, right? That's always been their thing, or just offensive guys in general in rounds 2 and 3, right? Like, because
The Packers are an interesting case. So, being a Cowboys fan, we hear a lot from Brian Broaddus, who was also a scout with the Packers.
mm-hmm,
Um, and they have this interesting, like, they have very interesting benchmarks that they require of their players. And so it comes to pass that their valuations of players often look very different. They do get value a lot
mm-hmm,
with guys like Kingsley Eddingbar. He had no business getting picked in the fifth round. I think there had to be a medical in there somewhere.
mm-hmm,
Um, but yeah, I was not surprised Christian Watson was available at 34.
mm-hmm,
Um, I know Punkenshine is a huge Christian Watson fan. He had a first round grade on him. I did not. I had a late second, early third round grade,
mm-hmm.
and the reason being is that I am not a huge fan of receivers that can't run routes. Christian Watson runs in straight lines. He can't really
Yeah,
bend. And so when it comes to turning, when you're 6 foot, whatever, 6'3" or something, turning's a little hard when you're long legged and your hips are that high sometimes. And
mm-hmm.
I thought he didn't play quite as big as he should have, considering he's 6'3" against people that are going to not be holding football
I
jobs
was gonna
in
ask how you thought his
a couple
transition might
months.
be against real athletes. Not that okay, D2 athlete or yeah, FCS athletes are real athletes, but like against NFL athletes, I guess more accurately. Like the I feel like for wide receivers, like I mean, who's the latest like wide receiver from North Dakota State to be successful? I don't know, maybe that's a bad metric, but like I'm trying to think of athletically how is that going to translate?
Oh, I can't think of his name. But
Noah.
basically, no one is the short
I
answer.
guess. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. So we'll see. I mean, what are they? I mean, how? What was Christian Watson's 40 time? Like, how fast does he run? I know he's a straight line guy, but like,
Let me look that up for you.
sorry.
Um, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
I am looking.
Mhm.
Actually, I guess I should plug. It's Kent Lee Platt's tool. It's called the Relative Athletic Score, and it
Oh,
is
sure. Yeah.
far and away the best athletic testing tool out there.
Hmm.
Christian Watson at 6'4", 208 pounds, ran a 4.3640.
Okay.
Um,
That's like, you know, that's fine. That's
I mean,
kind of what it needs to be for a
you
guy like
expect a
him,
lot
but.
more from him, though. He had a 38.5-inch vertical and a 11-foot 4-inch
Mhm.
broad. That broad jump is 99.5%, 99.5th percentile
Yeah.
among receivers from like the past 30
Jeez.
years or whatever.
Uh-huh.
That's ridiculous, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you don't see that on tape. He plays much smaller than you think. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah, and how do you think he's gonna do? How does an NFL team fix drops as well? Like,
I don't know that I saw drops, although I didn't watch.
I mean, I
The availability of his tape was not crazy.
okay, because
But the way to fix drops is to carry around a weighted ball.
okay,
Essentially,
okay,
that's what To had to go through.
okay, because
If you
my
see the clip of Jahan Dotson arriving in Landover,
mm,
he was carrying a weighted ball with him too, which apparently he has fumbling issues or whatever. Like,
mm-hmm. But yeah, that's
Adrian
the
Peterson did
rumor.
the same thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
That's the rumor. That's what I've been hearing in the rumor mill for Christian Watson is that like he's not like the biggest drop guy, but that given how wide open he tends to be, that he has a lot of focus drops, is what I've heard, which is like okay, I guess. I but
My biggest concern with Christian Watson is that he can't turn, one,
right.
and that two, he doesn't play like a guy who's 6'3", 6'4".
Right.
He plays like a guy who's 6'1", and
Mm-hmm.
for a guy that has those athletic jumping numbers, he should be playing way higher above the rim than he was, and especially against guys that are not going to have football jobs. If for any Apex players, it's like watching Jen Burton out there. You know, it's like okay, like you should be dominating a lot more, maybe, and then you go and get COVID at LGS land. But anyway, that's a separate conversation.
Yeah. North Dakota State's Missouri Valley, right? Sorry.
Sorry.
Real quick. North Dakota State's Missouri Valley, right? For football. Because 1-11.
I don't know FCS conferences. Sorry.
I'm almost certain it's. But sorry, go ahead and I'll look it up. Go ahead and start with the next. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I mean, just going down the list, Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt picking two Georgia defenders was straight trolling Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, you want a receiver? Can I interest you in a linebacker instead? Oh, you wanted a receiver? My bad. I thought you wanted a defensive tackle. Like, they're good players. Devontae Wyatt might have some legal issues, so that might be something to monitor coming up. Quay Walker's a good linebacker. I didn't have him as my top linebacker, but he's a good player. His processor maybe isn't as fast as Nakobe Dean, but most people's processors aren't as fast as Nakobe Dean.
Right.
You have Sean Ryan, who's probably going to kick inside. He goes to your school right now.
Let's go, baby. Go Bruins.
He's going to kick inside. He's going to have good feet for inside. He has bad feet for outside. So,
also, North Dakota State is Missouri Valley, just for you 1-11. Yeah.
Does Wichita State have a football team?
I actually think they might, weirdly enough.
Oh, really? Okay.
I can list out the teams in the Missouri Valley Football Conference if you want, but if you have any interest, yeah.
Romeo Doubs is a crazy deep threat. Once again, from Nevada. Once again, catching passes from Carson Strong, who is literally a quarterback on a peg leg, but can throw it 80 yards regardless.
Yeah.
He's kind of perfect made for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers' best trait throughout his entire career has been his deep ball accuracy, and him and Russell Wilson have always excelled on that category. And Romeo Doubs is going to be able to take advantage of that. He's a deep threat guy. He's not quite as fast as you think he is, but he's a deep threat guy. Zach Tom, super smart. Wake Forest. He's going to play center, probably for them. Although it depends on where they put Elton Jenkins, but. He's a super smart kid. He played tackle actually for a game for Wake Forest when they needed him to fill in. Oh,
interesting.
There. He held his own. I mean, no one's disillusioned enough to think that he's going to play tackle, but he's a good interior offensive lineman. I think they're probably going to move whoever's in center. I don't actually know that starting roster, but they're going to put him at center. There's. Let me look it up.
Sorry. Also, while you're doing that, Wichita State does not have a football team. So that's the
Okay,
thing.
I figured.
Also, or at least if they do, it's not in the Missouri Valley Conference. But also, I was interested to see Rasheed Walker on as a seventh round draft pick because like at one, I thought he would at least go in like the fifth or sixth round. Not that I'm saying that I love him as a prospect, but also like I don't know, isn't he like I guess he's not really all that athletic, is he? Like he's not really that athletic of a tackle. He's just like a guy who can function okay and played for Penn State, so he gets to get drafted as a tackle. Like am I what's your take on Rasheed Walker here? Like
Rasheed Walker, I had just at the top. So I think the way you want to phrase your question is Nicholas Petit Frere got picked at 69. There's no way Rasheed Walker shouldn't get picked, right? And the
uh-huh.
reason I say that is I had Petit Frere at the bottom of my tier 2 of tackles and
Mhm.
Rasheed Walker at the top of tier 3. So yes, I agree with you. He was probably draftable. I had a draftable grade on him. Do I think that he should have gotten that late? Like, I think he's only worth that value, but tackles get overvalued in the draft, so he
Sure.
probably could have gone earlier if Petit Frere is getting picked at 69, for goodness sakes.
Sure, yeah.
Um, or Trevor Penning at 19 when his best trade is throwing defensive tackles at the knees of his quarterback. So,
As a Ravens fan, I am very glad we did not pick Trevor Penning. I was very afraid because we had the chance to, and or wait, did we? No, yes, yeah, because he went
I
like
mean, yes,
yes,
he went
we
19,
did, but we
so you guys drafted Hamilton at 14, I believe?
yeah we were at 14, so we had the chance, but we fortunately yeah dodged a bullet on that one. But regardless, did you find what you needed to, or
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, so Zach Thomas, our lads has him listed as a right tackle. He is not going to play tackle. I can guarantee you that.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember who Josh Myers is, to be honest with you.
The fun of NFL depth charts.
Oh, that Josh Myers. Yeah. He's a young guy. He might replace Royce Newman. I don't know. He's a good player. John Runyon was not a highly rated guy coming out, so
Hmm.
um, yeah,
Sure.
he was like a fifth round pick.
Hmm.
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
So he was a late guy. So he might replace John Runyon at left guard. I don't know. Zach Tom's a good player though.
Hmm. I guess do you have
We
any other?
have
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted.
yeah. My last comment is Trey Carpenter. It's interesting they listed him as a linebacker. He was a strong safety for Georgia Tech. I really liked. I rated the two safeties from that defense right next to each other. Wanye Thomas and Trey Carpenter. It's interesting that they label him linebacker, but there's been some success stories of moving strong safety as linebackers. Look at like someone like Mark Barron or something. So,
Okay.
or my favorite example is Hamza Nasruddin, but
Yeah.
from last year's draft. But
I know
yeah,
you have a soft spot for Holmes.
I do love moving linebackers, safeties to linebacker.
Uh-huh.
Like Isaiah Simmons, there's a reason they thought he was a middle linebacker when they drafted him. But yeah,
Hmm.
and Troy Anderson from this draft as well.
I still don't think you'll ever forgive the Cardinals for how poorly they're utilizing him. But
I will never. When I start a Madden franchise, the first thing I do is trade for Isaiah Simmons. That's how I start every time. So
yeah. All right. I guess. Do you have any other thoughts before we move on to the Vikings? Or are you good to go?
I mean, the Packers had a typical Packers draft, and it was good. I think their seventh round picks were special teams coordinator picks, but
Okay.
yeah,
Sure.
it was a typical Packers draft.
Hmm. Nice. All right. Ooh, I love the Andrew Booth pick at 42. I'm a big Andrew Booth guy. And so I was very I think that's a really good fit in Minnesota. So I'm a big fan of that. Um, let's see. Is there anyone else that really sticks out here? I mean, Lewis Cine is like I don't really have any strong inklings on Lewis Cine. Brian Brian Asamoah. Oh, sorry, my brain is like I'm trying to remember. I think I like Brian Asamoah in the third round. I don't know. What's your yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I'm sorry, I'm
Sure.
trying to yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, so Lewis Cine is an interesting guy, in that I wonder how he pairs with Harrison Smith. I thought they were kind of similar players. Harrison Smith isn't the best coverage safety, but he's a good all around safety. So obviously he
Mm-hmm.
covers decently as well. Lewis Seen is also kind of one of those guys who, he's good, so he'll cover pretty well. But
Mm-hmm.
he's at his best when he's running like a maniac down the alley and getting that running back. And so I wonder how they fit together, and I wonder if this just means it's the end of Harrison Smith's time there, which
I don't know, how old is he? It's like 30 something.
32,
Yeah.
probably ish.
Okay, yeah. So that's getting there.
But I like Lewis, and he's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a screaming missile, like straight down that alley every time.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder about the fit, but that's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Booth, I think he's good value. I had a first round grade on him, or no,
Borderline, right? Like,
yeah, I had a borderline. He was in my first tier. Yeah, he was my fourth corner, and he was the sixth, seventh corner drafted. So
yeah, works for you.
There were some good players there. Roger McCreary, I thought teams were going to come off of him because of his short arms. So, there's that. Ed Ingram, I thought was right about here. I liked Ed Ingram a lot coming out, and I know a lot of evaluators didn't. Ed Ingram was my fourth guard, so, and he was the fourth guard taken. I didn't have Luke Gadecki quite that high, but I thought Ed Ingram went right where he should have. Good player, even on bad teams, but he was also on that good team as well. So, he was the last one standing. And then Brian Asamoah is your typical Oklahoma linebacker. He's small, he's short, he's fast. He'll run sideline to sideline, and he'll go and get that tackle. But do I want him to cover? Not really. I want him running sideline to sideline forwards. Very similar to Kenneth Murray, frankly, and he probably covers a little worse than Kenneth Murray. So,
yeah, I mean, I need to bring our labs up. I can't think of who Minnesota's linebackers.
Well, they just lost guy with a brother.
The guy with a brother.
Kendricks.
Oh,
Eric Kendricks. Yeah.
Eric Kendricks. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So they needed a linebacker.
They have Jordan Hicks, Eric Kendricks. Oh, Zadarius Smith ended up with them, but he's more of an edge guy. DJ Wanham.
DJ Wanham from South Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah. That's about it. Blake Lynch, I guess. That's kind of.
Then they lost the other one. I don't know. They had two UCLA linebackers. They lost one of them.
Oh, okay. Well, our lad still has both Eric Kendricks and Blake Lynch on their roster, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know who Blake Lynch is, but okay.
Oh, okay. Regardless, yeah.
Caleb Evans was definitely on the Cowboys' radar at 129.
Yeah.
I didn't like him as much as apparently teams did, because I heard a lot of teams were trying to come up for Caleb Evans. He's kind of a wiry dude, kind of very tenacious, one of those guys. So, decent pick. I wouldn't have picked him that high, but apparently if you wanted him, you needed to pick him that high. I don't know about Asazi Odomeo. I have watched Minnesota tape because of Boye Mafe, but I don't know really much about him. Ty Chandler's interesting. He transferred to North Carolina after, they had their two running backs get drafted last year, Javonte Williams and Michael Carter.
Yeah.
And so, Ty Chandler was interesting. He's kind of a speedy guy, but also he's pretty well built on his lower half. So it'll be interesting how he fits in here. They've been running Alexander Madison out as the cuff the entire time. That's really all they had. They didn't really have, anyone else as a running back option there. So, it fills a role. I don't know if it was a need necessarily. And then some feeble attempts to address the wide receiver spot with Jalen Naylor.
Jalen Naylor was I mean, he's a 6 round, so it's whatever. But I think I mistook him for someone else. Sorry, give me 2 seconds.
I can just talk about Jalen Naylor real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
He's
Yeah,
kind
go
of
for
the
it.
short speed guy, and not short, but he's like a thin speed guy. Um, yeah, and so he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's just speed. Like that's his trait.
Yeah.
It's speed.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. Do you have any other general thoughts on the Vikings before we go on to the Lions, or what's your feel?
They were filling needs. They
Yeah.
went with big schools early,
Yeah.
and probably throughout. They went Power Five all the way through, which is generally how a lot of teams look at the draft. So,
Mm-hmm.
not a bad way to go about it, just probability wise. But
Yeah.
it was a decent draft. I wouldn't say it's like they hit it out of the park by any means, because they probably should have drafted a receiver early because Adam Thielen is old and they're gonna have to pay Justin Jefferson their
Uh-huh.
entire salary cap. So.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to the Lions. Yeah.
K Web, sorry, I hope you held on that
No,
long.
it's okay. That's okay.
But yeah, once again, Aiden
Yeah.
Hutchinson is.
I would if I was a Lions fan, I'd be much happier with Aiden Hutchinson than Trevon Walker personally, but that's just me. I don't know.
I probably disagree, but Aiden Hutchinson's a good player.
I mean, yeah, I'm not
James
saying for the
Williams-
ceiling. I'm with you that Trevon Walker's ceiling is definitely higher than Aiden Hutchinson's, but like, I don't know.
Aiden Hutchinson is probably closer to the player that he's going to be in the NFL than Trayvon Walker is.
Yeah,
That's what I'll say.
I mean, isn't he just going to be like Zadarius Smith, and that's kind of it?
Aiden
Like,
Hutchinson?
at his isn't his ceiling kind of like Zadarius Smith, and that's what he is, and
He's not quite as twitchy, but
Sure.
he's a good player. He's a good player. He's going to be he's going to be a fringe double-digit sack guy.
Mhm. Which for a second overall pick's pretty good, I think.
Yeah, especially for a hometown boy, it's a feel-good
Yeah.
pick. Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Jameson Williams, as long as you're okay with the knee, one of the speediest guys in the draft. Josh Pascal, great run defending edge player.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that
Mean streak.
Actually more collected than you'd think. Dane
Oh.
Brugler said that he wished he had ranked Pascal higher. The
Oh.
teams obviously thought the same thing as well,
Uh-huh.
because he went really early in the second round.
Mhm.
Kirby Joseph has like Spider-Man arms, ridiculous like
Oh,
long
really?
arms.
Are they-
It shows on tape. Yeah,
He's got
he has like
those-
33-inch arms. Like
Jeez.
it's crazy.
That's crazy. I mean,
Um,
I guess that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Mitchell was one of my favorite tight ends, a super athletic guy. There's
What
one
is-
play against USD where literally there's a guy hanging from his shoulders and he catches a ball. So,
Oh, that's that guy. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think he's going to fit in with Hawkinson? Like, what's his what do
he
you think his
doesn't need
role's
to
going to
fit in
be?
with Hawkinson.
What?
He fits a very different role because Mitchell's definitely going to be your like Y type receiver. Hawkinson's like in line your H back, so
Mm-hmm.
it'll be fine. They're not really the similar running backs or not running backs.
Or tight
so.
ends. Yeah.
Malcolm Rodriguez is your typical short, can't really cover, but is a heat-seeking missile type Big 12 linebacker,
Mhm.
and that's really good value for him at 188 because Terrell Bernard's basically the same player, and he went 99 picks earlier. So
Mhm.
there's that. Chase Lucas is kind of a flyer slot guy. They already have a slot guy in Oruwariye, although I guess they could kick him out. So. Or outside, not out of the team, but outside. So.
Yeah. No, they're Lions. They can't afford it. Like.
Yeah,
Like
they need every
they need
single
the
piece of
help.
talent they can get.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I was really impressed with the Lions' top half, especially. Like, obviously, that's kind of what I tend to be more in tune with because I don't necessarily watch Jackson State film, but like seeing who they got and at the value that they got, like I'm trying to think of what they gave up. What they give like a third or fourth rounder to the Vikings to get Jameson Williams. Like it wasn't. I don't think it was anything crazy to get that, and like I think him aside on Ross St. Brown is going to be really good, and I
think it's an interesting team building strategy. Also, they realize we don't have any good quarterbacks in the division other than Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
So with
Just,
the
load
Bears
up
and the
on
Vikings,
defensive line.
let's just pin our ears back and go get him. That's what you get, two edges up front. So.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out for them over the years. I mean, obviously they're still rebuilding, but like maybe 2024 comes around and they could sneak out 7 wins. Like They're they could
I
be
don't think that quite, but they just don't have the quarterback, so
sure.
we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, do you have any other thoughts on the Lions before I guess we go on to the next team?
I think I'm probably good on the Lions.
Okay. Cool.
We'll see them next year. They're when
Yeah.
they're back when they're relevant in the draft again. So
Yeah.